All right, hello everyone and welcome to the Madison County School District Finance Corporation meeting. We are having a virtual meeting. Today is December 10th and it is 2020. It's about 5:55 when we start our finance meeting. So number one on our agenda is calling the meeting to order. So I have done that. And number two on our agenda tonight is to adopt protocol resolution for meeting protocol. So I'm not going to read the entire protocol, but I will let you guys know that the resolution states that the public health threats of COVID-19 and to take proper health precautions to mitigate the spread of this virus, members of the public will only be able to view video teleconference meetings remotely until the time comes when the board can safely meet again in person. So I need a motion on the floor to adopt the resolution regarding meeting protocols for the coronavirus, COVID-19, as presented.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so the motion's been made by Mrs. Brock and seconded by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to number 3 on our Finance Corporation meeting is to approve the minutes. I hope everyone had time to look at the minutes, and if there's not any questions, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12th meeting.
So move. I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Okay, the motion's been made by Mrs. Coyle and a second by Mrs. Cobb. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Number 4 on our Finance Corporation agenda tonight is to consider the resolution for revenue refunding bonds. So this is a little long, so please be with me as I read this resolution to everyone. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Madison County School District Finance Corporation relating to and providing for the issuance of $2,545,000 principal amount, which may be increased or decreased by the amount of $254,500 of taxable school dollars, building revenue refunding bonds, Series 2020, in accordance with the sections 162.120 through 162.300 and 162.385 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes to provide funds for the refunding in advance of maturity of the outstanding Madison County School District Finance Corporation School Building Revenue Bonds, Series 2011, approving the plan of refunding the Series 2011 bonds, providing and determining the duty of the corporation in connection with the operation of the school property and the creation of funds sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds as and when they mature, authorizing and approving the execution of continuing disclosure procedures and the creation of an adequate maintenance and insurance fund, and authorizing the execution of a lease and other instruments with respect to such property with the Board of Education of the Madison County School District. So I know that was long. Are there any questions? All right, if there's no questions, then I need a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue refunding bonds.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford, second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Moving on to number 5 on our agenda is to adjourn. So I need a motion to adjourn this Finance Corporation meeting.
So move.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Brock and a second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned. All right, so we're going to move straight into the Madison County Board of Education. This is our regular meeting on December the 10th. It's 2020. It's 6 p.m. We are having a virtual meeting just like we had last month. First item on our agenda is to call the meeting to order. Second on our agenda is the Madison County Schools. Oh, wait, it's our vision. Sorry, I was going to read our vision to you, but I've already asked someone to read it. So go right ahead.
Madison County Schools, in partnership with the community, strives to equip educators and students with the skills to lead by example, develop and speak in a unique voice, and explore their academic curiosity to make a positive impact in our community and world.
Thank you, Mrs. Brook. All right, so number 3 on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda. So items listed in our consent agenda are, there are several things, the minutes of the November 12th meeting and the November 24th special meeting that we had, our claims, the acknowledgement of the record of the superintendent's personnel actions, the acknowledgement of the leave of absences, and a shortened school day application. Are there any questions? Okay, I see everybody shaking their head no. So if there's no questions, then we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented just now.
So moved.
All right, I'll say that Mrs. Cobb made the motion and Mrs. Brock seconded the motion. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion's carried. Moving on to number 4 tonight, our action agenda. So 4A on the agenda is to adopt a resolution regarding the issuance of revenue refunding bonds. So please be with me as I read this again. Well, it's a little different this time. So our Board of Education resolution. So the resolution of the Board of Education of Madison County School District, Richmond, Kentucky, authorizing and approving the refunding of certain outstanding Madison County School District Finance Corporation School Building Revenue Bonds, Series 2011, approving the plan of refunding the Series 2011 bonds, authorizing the execution of a contract, lease, and option with the Madison County District Finance Corporation, approving the execution of continuing disclosure procedures and any further necessary instruments. Are there any questions? All right. If not, then I need a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the Madison County School District Finance Corporation to issue revenue refunding bonds. I wanted to make sure I said that properly. So I need a motion, please.
So moved.
All right. I'll make Mr. Rutherford with the motion, Mrs. Brock with the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. When I see you guys do that, all your mouths move at the same time. So it's difficult for me. So if you don't want to, if I made a mistake, just make sure you let me know. All right, moving on to 4B, to create and ratify one para position at Madison Southern High School. So the rationale for this is that Madison Southern will use Section 6 funds for this position. I know that we've looked over all of this. When we got our notes, we've had time to answer and ask, not answer, to ask lots of questions and to get the answers is what I should say. Are there any questions or would anyone like to speak on the topic?
Dr. Gillum, just to clarify, this does not come out of the general budget. This is going to be, they're going to use school funds, basically.
That's correct. It's school funds. Each school has allocated funds, and every school across our district employs a few people at their discretion. So Madison Southern's going to do this with theirs. Mm-hmm. And that has to be approved by their site-based council.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I need a motion to create and ratify one paraeducator position at Madison Southern High School.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Cobb, second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 4C, we're going to declare 4 buses as surplus. We have a speaker with us tonight. I see him right there. Mr. Shane Lakes, Director of our Transportation. Hi, Mr. Lakes.
Hello, how are you?
We're good.
So this fall, I started receiving some emails regarding a Volkswagen mitigation trust that was being administered by Energy and Environmental Cabinet. Basically, it states that if you do an application, you can receive up to 50% reimbursement on the replacement cost of buses that were built in year 2001 or earlier. So these are very old buses, and they emit emissions that pollute the air. So we had 4 buses in our fleet that these had to be daily buses that we were either on routes or we drive every day as sub buses. We had 4 buses that met this criteria. So we applied for the grant and we received it. So what that means is we have to surplus these 4 buses now, and we have to order replacement buses to replace these buses. We can drive these buses the rest of the school year, but we have to have buses to replace them, and this trust will reimburse us 50% of the cost of the buses. So what it amounts to is for each bus, they're reimbursing us $57,976.50. That price multiplied by 4 is $231,906. So if we order 4 buses to replace those, that comes out to a little bit more than that. It comes out to $253,663. The reason it's a little bit more than the 50% is because we do on our large buses put undercarriages on them. We tint the windows and do a couple of extras that they don't pay for. The trust only pays for the basic bus. So for lack of a better way to say it. So we're saving $231,906 on 4 84 passenger buses. It comes out to a total of, I think, $485,000, and we will be reimbursed $231,906 when these buses arrive. We have to destroy or disable the buses that we're currently driving by putting a 3-inch hole in the engine block and by cutting the metal of it, the rails of it, so it cannot be used in the future. So basically what I'm asking you to do is to surplus these 4 buses and approve buying 4 new buses. And we normally buy buses in June. We buy 10 buses usually, 4 84 passenger, 4 72 passenger, and 2 special needs buses. This would be in lieu of buying the 4 84 passenger buses in June. We would just buy them now.
So we would go ahead and just budget for 6 or allocate for 6 buses next summer instead of our typical 10. I'm just so happy that you all took advantage of this opportunity. I've been reading about it through KSBA and other school boards as I watch them take advantage. So thank you for your work in doing that.
That is correct. It would be just 6 in June.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Lakes?
That's very helpful in a budget year.
Thank you.
All right. So right now we need a motion not to buy the buses, but we need a motion to declare the 4 school buses as surplus. So if someone can make that motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. The motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford, second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll move into 4D for the purchase of the 4 new buses. Mr. Lakes, is there anything else you want to say?
I think that covers it.
Okay. So, are there any other questions for Mr. Lakes? All right, then I need a motion to approve the purchase of 4 new school buses.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made Who made the motion? Mrs. Brock. Okay. And then a second by Mrs. Cobb, I believe. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, moving on our agenda to 4E, approve Save the Children grant. And I believe Dr. Gillum is going to tell us all about that.
Make sure I'm unmuted here. Yeah, the Save the Children grant. Save the Children approached us with a grant opportunity last year, and this is, for the most part, it's a continuation of that grant. It provides services to 2 schools. They have certain qualifications that schools must meet based off of free and reduced lunch and as well reading levels and so forth. So we had 2 schools that qualified that they wanted to write into their grant, and that was Kingston Elementary and Daniel Boone Elementary. And essentially what this does, it provides some additional, a couple of additional folks to work during the daytime with students on literacy initiatives, and then as well work in the afternoons, after school program, and then as well in the summer. So the funds provided by Save the Children cover that. There is a small amount of match in the grant, but it is an in-kind match. There's no out-of-pocket expenses for us. As I mentioned, it does involve employees. However, those folks are tied to the grant, and should the grant funds not be available, those positions would not be filled. So, no cost to the district, good service to our kids. I recommend that we take advantage of the Save the Children grant.
Are there any questions for Dr. Gillum? I want to remind our audience that we received our agenda last week. We've had plenty of time to ask all these questions, but I always want to give everyone enough time to ask them during our meeting as well. So if there's no further questions, then I need a motion to approve the Save the Children grant as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Coyle, second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Moving on to 4F, hear and discuss the 2021-2022 proposed school calendar. That seems like such a long way away, Mr. Neely, but thank you for joining us, and we're excited to go over our new proposed school calendar.
Well, yeah, we tried to get ahead of it this time last year. Mr. Gillum thought we should try to help the folks who have to put in for vacation 10, 11 months before time. So we tried to get ahead of the game and do this last year, and we were ahead of the game until COVID-19 happened. So we're going to try it again, and I believe we're going to have a better turnout this time where folks can have a calendar next month when it comes for vote. And then they can do their schedules with their spouse or what have you from that. So you should have draft 1 and draft 2 as an attachment. If there's any questions you may have, I'll just go over some highlights on both of those drafts. Again, SFD is student first day, SLD student's last day. That's typically what everybody looks at to see when we start and when we end. Draft 1, if you can see the major difference is we have all the professional development on the front end before school. We did that this year in August as we were preparing for how to deal with COVID and how to learn how to Zoom and things of that nature. And we got an overwhelming response from our calendar committee of how well it was received. So we decided to stick that in there in one of the drafts of getting your PD over with at the beginning and allowing you to prepare for school at the beginning of the year with your teammates, for lack of a better term. And also another difference was fall break in draft 1 is a week later. October the 11th instead of October the 4th. The reason for that is The 9 weeks is over on October the 8th. So a lot of teachers they wanted to finish the 9 weeks and then have a break and then start. It's tough to have a break and then you still have a week left in your 9 weeks. They thought that the response has been that they prefer 9 weeks to finish. Is there anything there that's jumping off to you that you have a question about?
So draft 1 has been the most popular with our teachers.
Correct. Draft 1, we've had over 500 votes. 67% have voted for draft 1. 33% for draft 2. Again, draft 2, the main difference is start earlier, you get out earlier. Is draft 2. Draft 1, although the teachers would start on August the 9th, students would not start until August 18th. So that's the main difference between the start time of draft 1 and draft 2. Both calendars give you 170 instructional days and 183 work days. We've discussed a little bit lately about will there be snow days as we move forward. So maybe gone are the days of trying to build in banked time how we used to, because snow days those may be gone. We may just do a virtual day or what have you. So that's the reason why sometimes we would have 173 day calendar. Now that would give us 3 bank days so we could utilize in case we had a lot of snow. This is just the minimum of 170 days, which is required by the department. Any questions?
Mr. Neal, I was just looking at the draft 1, and there's just a couple of PD days sprinkled in throughout the entire calendar year.
Yes. Yeah. January 4th is one.
A break in there.
I'm sorry.
So that'll give at least a few days throughout the calendar for a break for the kids, other than
Correct.
a holiday.
That's correct. If you look at February, February 21st is President's Day. Mm-hmm. Typically try to have that as a day off. So that is the only day off for kids in the month of February. So that gives them a break, because that's a pretty long stretch from January 4th to April 4th of no breaks. That's a long grind for students as well as every other certified or classified worker.
What is that on January 17th?
That is Martin Luther King Day. That's a holiday.
That's a holiday. Okay, good.
Yes.
I printed mine in black and white. I don't have it color coded.
Yeah, it's a green day. It's a MLK Day's holiday.
Okay.
November 2nd, of course, is election day. Mm-hmm. For those who are having somebody's running in their district. February 21st, again, is President's Day. Then you've got fall break and spring break.
And you said the response was 67% for draft 1 of the survey?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? This would be a good opportunity with it being on YouTube, Facebook Live. If parents would like to comment in the comment section, we would love to hear what your thoughts are, to hear what you're thinking when you guys are listening to Mr. Neely and looking at the proposed calendar. I also want to remind everybody that we're not going to vote on this tonight. We must, per the law, we must have 2 readings of it. So tonight is our first reading and going over it and hearing the calendar committee and what the superintendents have said to us and what they recommend. So are there any other questions?
I want to thank the calendar committee before you move on. It's kind of difficult when you look at it. We don't try to appease everyone, but you try to make it comfortable for everyone, teachers and students. And you also look at surrounding districts to try to, I guess, mirror each other. So, we're a smaller community here, but you still have Malvern, you still have Berea community, EKU, so we've got a lot of people that may work in different sectors instead of just Madison County Schools. So you take that into account and try to accommodate as many people as you can. And we've got some folks on our calendar committee that are very good at looking at that and reminding some of us who may be closed-minded.
Well, I know, I'm sure there's going to be many, many, many families that will appreciate us getting this calendar once we vote on it in January to them very early, much earlier than what we used to. So thank you all for your time. All right, so we will move on then to number 4 on our agenda item, 4G. So we'll discuss the resolution regarding the emergency leave, and we'll have Superintendent Gillum direct us in that, please.
Okay, if you'll recall back at the start of school for the school year, we did have an emergency resolution extending the number of emergency days. Basically, what that does is that gives me the authority to extend emergency days to folks impacted by quarantine or positive COVID test results. It's consistent with the federal regulations that came out with that. The federal regulations limited it though to 10 days. And so we felt there might be circumstances where people were in schools working around students or others and were exposed and had to quarantine, and we wanted to provide them with that additional emergency time if necessary. So we did that back in, I think, June or July. And as we have moved forward, that originally expires December 31st. So we just simply want to extend that throughout the second semester as necessary. Most of our folks, when they are quarantined or whatever, have been working from home. So it's really not cost us either the days folks have been quarantined one time, which would be covered under the federal piece, or even in most of those circumstances, people have been working from home or doing other things, working remotely. So it's really been had very little impact in terms of lost workforce, but I think that's something we need to continue for our employees to provide them with some safety and security during this time.
Are there any questions for Dr. Gillum? All right, then I need a motion to approve the resolution of the Madison County Board of Education regarding the need for additional emergency leave for employees and granting authority to the superintendent to authorize emergency leave to those employees who qualify.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford, second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Moving down our agenda to 4H, to set our January meeting date. So generally when we approve our meetings, we do it for the entire year. So we are almost to the end of this year. I think many people are thankful for us to be near the end of this year. But we have a proposed meeting date of January the 14th of 2021. Is everyone okay with that before we make a motion? All right. Hearing no questions, then I need a motion to approve the scheduled to schedule the January 14th, 2021 as the first meeting of the Madison County Board of Education for the new year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Mrs. Coyle, second by Mrs. Cobb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Our next meeting will be January the 14th next year. Moving on to 4I, instruction. We have a speaker tonight for our instruction report. There she is. We're going to discuss the CDIP plan. And we have Ms. Gina Lakes, Director of our Professional Development. Hello, Mrs. Lakes.
Hello, everybody. It's great to see you all. It's been a while. As you know, every year annually, the state requires each district and each school to do an improvement plan, needs assessment, lots of data, overviews, reviews, analysis, etc. This year, because we did not do state testing in the spring, so no state testing data for 2020, some of these goals, if you pulled out last year's goals, are going to look very similar because we are using the same state data. That's what the state has shared with us. We're using K-PREP data from 2019. We obviously, at the individual school levels, they'll be using their diagnostic data from iReady, but again, we're advising that they would use that 2019-20 that winter iReady data from last year, probably a little bit more reliable than that spring data from 2020. Also, they have their fall 2020 data that they can look at too as diagnostic. So you can see that there are 6 required goals, the information that I shared with you, 6 required goals for the district proficiency, which really is looking at math and reading. Separate academic indicator would be looking at writing, social studies, and science. So those are really, that's all students for both of those goals. Then the growth goal is looking at when you're wanting to see how your students are growing in elementary and middle school, that growth, that's where high schools do not have a growth goal. So they're looking at reading and math in the growth goal. The gap goal is one that we really will be focusing on as we move into getting students back into in-person, hopefully in the spring semester, but most significantly in the fall, as we are looking at students with reading and math gaps, both students with disabilities specifically, but all students as well there. Transition goal and graduation rate goal, those are district goals, but as far as the school level, you're only going to see transition goal and the graduation rate goal at the high schools. So transitions really thinking about that college career readiness and looking at how many students have completed certifications in career and technical education, looking at ACT scores, that kind of thing. One of the things, if you notice the data, all the numbers that I sent you, graduation rate at the very bottom, that is the only data that we received from the state in 2020. So our graduation rate did increase. It was 92.6 in 2019. It went to 93.3. So we were above the state progress goal for graduation rate. One thing to keep in mind is that the CDIP goals that are listed for CSIP for schools, this Comprehensive School Improvement and Comprehensive District Improvement Plan, those goals are 5-year goals. They can be stretched no longer than 5, but so when you look at those, it's going to say 2024. So not having our data, while it doesn't help us, it didn't hinder us completely as far as goal setting. What does come into play, though, is that second page that I shared with you when it talks about the activities, the strategies and activities that we're going to do as a district to reach those goals. Obviously, a lot of the things that we had planned to do last year did not get to happen for whatever, for a lot of reasons, but more significantly, just because we couldn't get together as much as we would like to do to work with teachers and focus on some of these specific goals. So some of the activities that we'll be planning for the calendar year of 2021. That is one of the things that's different about your district goals for CDIP. They run in a calendar year, not on the school year. So it's a little bit odd. We always don't think that way in the schools. So our activities you could see are really focusing on what are those professional learning goals that we have for the district. for our teachers and our people working. And they're really those same things that we've been working on for several years. Continuous classroom improvement, math design collaborative, and effective professional learning communities. There are some specific things that we've started. We were able to start with a little bit late July, early August. We were able to bring some teachers in from our elementary schools and get started on unit planning. That's going to be one of our big focus areas for the summer, that we can get teachers in, because we're going to have to do a lot of gap analysis, finding out where our kids are missing things. So being able to effectively plan what instruction is going to look like when all the kids are back with us, and finding out where those gaps are, how important that iReady diagnostic is going to be for those teachers in elementary and middle school. One other goal that is not included on the sheets that I shared with you, Mr. Reister and Ms. Cornelius with our school site department contacted me this week and were like, we really want to add the MTSS program onto the district goal. So MTSS, multi-tier systems of support, which really looks at the social, emotional, and behavioral aspects of the student learning. So how important that's going to be. And as anybody who follows education news today, what we're seeing with students who are unable to be with the teachers on a regular basis in person, and all those other support staff that we have. So the goals that the MTSS group will include, we are going to add that to our CDIP when we report this to the state for January 1. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know there's not a lot of new stuff to share, but just that we haven't lost our focus, and that's probably the biggest message.
Any questions for Mrs. Lakes?
All right, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Lakes, because I know it's not easy what you're doing right now and trying to put all this together for us, especially.
Well, it's the teachers out there that have the hardest job right now, that's for sure.
You're absolutely right.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. We are now in our agenda to 4J, the construction report. We'll move into 4JA, the construction report. We have a speaker, Tony Thomas. There he is. Hello,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Good evening, everyone. I guess we'll begin with Berea this month. Last month, everyone on the board approved to, of course, award the project to Rising Sun for the Berea CTC. We subsequently submitted the paperwork to Kentucky Department of Education. They have since approved all that paperwork. Contracts are signed, and I'm going to go into presentation mode now. And let's see, we'll do this one. Share. So now, do you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we will start, like I said, work begins in Berea. This is at the highest part of the hill. They are stripping the topsoil right now. And if I back up a little bit, you can see they've got their silt fence in place. They've got some construction fence that they're working on putting around the entire perimeter of the site. We've got, of course, the middle school there and the bus garage. And there kind of puts you in perspective of where I was standing from that picture. There's the recently constructed bus garage, but they're taking the silt fence and the construction fence around the entire property. Now I'm up at the Fairstown Middle School entry. You can see the bus garage in the background there. Again, just more silt fence and construction fencing in place. Again, looking around the site, and I'm looking towards Fairstown Industrial now. You can see the black fence in the background. So basically equipment on site, silt fence in, construction fence going in, and grading has begun. So exciting for Berea to see that project really starting and underway as well. This is on Menelaus Road where they're doing the temporary construction entrance on Menelaus Road. So that project is underway. Any specific questions on Berea, on any of the paperwork or construction at this point? If not, I will move on to the Richmond project, which of course has been going on for several months now. You can see they've got the building pads in place. This is looking in the general direction of Coles, the 4 Mile Road to my back. You can see a crane in the background there. And a lot of supplies on site. You know, when you get your pay applications, you'll probably see a lot of purchase orders, invoices for materials where there are a lot of materials on site. And just another installation procedure, a lot of drainage, underground drainage being installed right now. This month, it was a pretty rough weather month, but you know, we've had snow, we've had rain, we've had cold and freezing. Even walking around on the site sometimes, it looked muddy, but the ground was frozen. But they've managed to still have good progress. Here you can see the foundations going in and the rebar coming up. Well, there'll be vertical walls. I showed this again just because I think I mentioned to you before, there was an area where we put a lot of fill in at one end of the site and we're monitoring the settlement. It has only settled over the course of 6 or 7 weeks, 1/100th of a foot, which isn't even a 16th or a 32nd of an inch. So that's great news. So we're going to have pretty solid foundation for our building. Just another picture of more concrete foundation and rebar going in. And now it's beginning to go vertical. If you've driven by there lately, they've had a crane on site, and you can see the vertical form walls. That is actually the storm shelter. That's the corner of the back corner of the storm shelter that's being formed. And they're using steel forms, which is pretty typical for how big these walls are. So it's going to be one big strong building there, especially inside the storm shelter gymnasium. So progress is good. I'm happy even with the bad weather that they've been able to move along like they have. So any questions with the Richmond site? Would like to take just a couple of minutes if I could and talk about interior concepts for the Richmond job. You know, we talked with the administration about color schemes, and it was generally decided, of course, the board has any say they want to have, or the final say, but our preliminary discussions have been to not tie these color schemes to any one particular school. You know, this is a district-wide or county-wide or area-wide technology center, not to be tied to any one specific school. So we really developed more of a neutral background. So I'm going to show you some of our interior renderings. Some of these not too different from what we've already shown you already. This would be the lobby again at the Richmond Area Technology Center with the charcoal brick showing on the inside as well. That's a wood panel ceiling above. The terrazzo, instead of doing multiple colors, just kind of I call them comfortable grays. There's a comfortable gray with some accent stripes. And then, of course, the only place that would really have some accent is over on the left side. You see the part of the entry, and if you walk to the other side of where we were just looking and look back, you would see the entry piece, which we've always shown as kind of this accent color. And then maybe we bring that accent up over the entry back to the lab areas as well. Now, if on this screen it looks like a central color, it's supposed to be more of kind of an orangey color, almost more like our logo color than it is any specific school. But if I keep going down here, we've brought that color into the gymnasium storm shelter and put it on the wall pads. Because we do with those, as again, I call it the grays that we have in here. Would like to put a little color in there as well. We've got gray bleachers, and those panels up on the wall are to help the sound. Those are concrete walls in there. And then, of course, the Madison County schools go in the middle of the court. Here's just another shot walking all the way across the floor and looking back. Here is, if we go into the corridors now, again, bringing some of those same terrazzo colors and say light tone grays, and then the warm wood color ceiling. Those only occur where the entries to the labs are. And you can see the signage we have there that will identify what particular suite that you're walking into. And then similar type acoustical sound panels on the corridor walls above the windows. And you can kind of see the windows in the corridor there that would be similar to what's going on at Cottle and Ferristown, where from the classrooms you have some light bleeding over from the corridor as well. This is a CTE classroom. So this would just be this is what almost every single classroom looks like. Very computer oriented. Going to have a lot of ports for a lot of computers. Again, just bringing the grays in there, but with the door and the floor tile color, just a very kind of warm neutral color to bring in there. And then whatever color somebody wants to put on the wall with banners or any other kind of boards or displays, they can add color in that way as well. The nursing station. I can't wait to see this built. But you can see the beds in the background, and then of course the computer stations. Now Madison County doesn't have to have that many computers there, but our rendering shows it. And of course you can see the large windows bringing lots of natural light in the area, and again the kind of the beige wheat floor tile color there. You can see there's the curtains in the background there to drape around the beds, and the beds are not in the contract, but that's what will be back there. This walks all the way across the room and looks back again. So we're in the same space there. This goes to the welding shop. This is if you were walking into the welding shop, what you would see: a lot of iron working, some hoist and welders. Very industrial looking, of course, because it is an industrial place. Again, just another direction looking at that. A lot of that equipment is either already owned by Madison County, or a few of those pieces were provided in this contract. In here, as far as the color scheme, you can see up on the mezzanine, we're using kind of a safety yellow, making the accent walls some of the darker grays, but then when you get up high on the walls, just the very kind of light, natural white gray colors, and the ceilings would be the same. Here we go to the auto shop. Again, concrete on the floor, some wainscot accent with just the comfortable, it's not a industrial battleship gray. I like to call it more of a kind of an industrial gray with the white up top. And you can see some of the equipment in there. Again, some of the equipment Madison County owns, some of it is provided in the contract. This is another shot of the, I'm sorry, this is the Auto Tech Lab. I'm not sure that I said that. This is if you were standing up on the mezzanine looking down. This is the Law and Justice room, which I think is fantastic. And you can see the large natural light coming into the windows to the left, and the judge's bench or trial bench at the end. I did a little bit more of a close-up there. Got some nice veneered, darker wood panels there, contrasting with the kind of wheat color on the floor. And that medallion I guess we'll still have to get with someone who will be teaching that and decide what the big, Justice for All or Madison County mock trial students are best, something like that. But we still have that's a big bronze medallion hanging above the judge's bench there. And this is looking closer at the if you're up on the bench, pretty much looking back out into the space. So a lot of exciting stuff going on there. So I was going to talk just a little bit about exteriors. Again, I'm not asking for an official approval, or you don't have to make a motion, but certainly this is the direction that we're heading. And of course, the contractors will be asking those questions pretty soon. I guess I'd like to ask the board, are there any big objections or questions to the direction we're heading right now relative to the color scheme at this facility? So that sounds like we must be heading in the right direction. So that's good. And Dr. Gillum, and if Mr. Cash is there too, this is something we can talk more specific about. And if we need to get down to a little more detail in any specific room or situation, we can certainly get together and meet more. Now I'm going to talk about the exterior. We've toned these. We've selected a specific brick now and toned these walls accordingly. Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I actually when I get off of the PowerPoint, I'm going to show you the actual brick samples. But we have a very dark kind of charcoal gray with a gray mortar brick for the entry there, and then a more reddish brick on the rest of the building. You can see over on the other side there, and this is more of a bird's eye view. And we're not talking about the roof yet. We'll come back and select the roof color later, although it will probably be somewhere in that gray realm. So they are going to construct a brick sample panel that has bricks similar to these colors on the site. And I told them to put it out towards, towards Toyota or their entry over or the bank across the street, so that any board members or anybody can come by and see them and view the brick as they would actually look in the wall. So with that said, I am going to stop sharing. And everything went away on me, Jeannie. I don't see anything. Do you all see me now?
Yes, we see you.
And I do not see you all, but that's okay. You all see me. Here's the black brick, and here's the red brick. So hopefully you all can see that. Nice contrasting colors. These are the bricks that they will use to build a sample panel out in front of the building. And also behind me here, hopefully you can see this. So here's the terrazzo, the ceramic tile, that's a base. These are the actual colors. I would have brought these with me in person, so like I like to do, so that you can see them. But the wheat colors and some of the laminate colors in the office area, that's the aluminum that would be on all the glass. So that's the interior and the exterior. Any questions on any of that?
And Tony, that panel that you have behind you, you could certainly bring that to the board office and leave it for a few days. Is that correct?
I can.
And then they can stop by and take a look at it. And as well, as you're showing that PowerPoint there, they're trying to see some of the images on our screen. And I don't think some of the images that they're being able to see there are really, I don't think the presentation here is actually doing them justice. So I have emailed your PowerPoint out to the board members, so they'll be able to pull that up and actually expand those images and make them a little bigger, where you can see it a little with a little more detail. So, and certainly if any of you have any questions or comments or on any of those interior colors or any of the design schemes, let me know, or let Tony know, or just let me know. We'll talk about it and guide. And I think we look pretty good right now so far, especially when you're able to see those with a little more detail, those pictures.
Okay, well that's it for the construction report then.
Okay, can you guys see me? Can you all see me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, just making sure. Beth, I may be on a second page of yours, possibly. All right, so Mr. Thomas, we're not done with you yet. We have 4JB to approve the revised BG1 for the Berea bus garage. We need to go over all of that.
Okay, well, these two BG1s, and I've been working with Mr. Woods, of course, in finance. KD has some stipulations about coming back and kind of rectifying the BG1 before you do your BG5 and close out the projects. It's really a formality, but we've worked together to ensure that these numbers are correct. And Mr. Woods, I should say, has done more work on it than I have, but that's really true of both of the next two items, the revised BG1 for the bus garage and the revised BG1 for the Boonesboro Elementary School. It's just really kind of coming back and accounting for all the numbers and bringing them up to date so that you can now do a BG 5 and close the project.
Okay, so you are prepared and ready for us to close this out and do the BG1.
Well, all you're doing tonight is approving this revised BG1,
Right.
which is no surprise number. These are all the numbers that you've seen all along. It's just us putting on paper so that KDE, it's really a useless formality, and I think Mr. Woods would agree with me, because BG1s are really estimates up to the point where you're done with a project and you close it out with a BG5. But for some reason, they're making us bring all of our BG1s, revising up to the point with right before you close out. So you are not closing out the projects tonight. You are only approving this revised BG1, which tries to bring accounting up to date. Would you say, did I say that correctly, Mr. Woods?
That's correct. Yeah, we're just making some small minor adjustments in these so that basically when we do the BG5, it'll allow us to use any residual funds on future projects. But in order to meet KDE's guidelines, we have to revise these to get to that point.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about this? Because we have 3 of them. Okay, if not, staying on 4JB to approve the revised BG1 for the Berea Bus Garage. I need a motion to approve the revised BG1 for the Berea Bus Garage. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You guys said that at the same time. So Mr. Rutherford made the motion. Mrs. Brock seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries for that one. 4JC to approve the revised BG1 for Boonesboro Elementary School. Are there any questions about this? It is the exact same reasoning that Mr. Woods and Mr. Thomas told us, preparing to close out this project, getting all the accounting numbers proper. Okay, then I need a motion to approve the revised BG1 for Boonesboro Elementary School.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Cobb, second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Moving down the page to 4JD to approve the BG4 for Berea Elementary School. Any questions? This is very, very much the same formalities.
Is that Boonesboro Elementary?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. I need a motion to approve the BG4 for the Boonesboro Elementary School project, number BG-17-052.
So moved.
All right, you all have perfect timing. So I'll say, let's say Mrs. Coyle made the motion and Mrs. Brock seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Thomas?
No, ma'am. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. Is there any way that you could possibly bring those samples to the school board office and we could possibly come into the lobby one at a time, of course, wearing masks, but
Absolutely.
that would be wonderful.
Okay. I can try to have them there by, I was just there this morning, by Monday morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Woods, it's time for you. 4K, we're going to move into finance. And of course, our speaker is Mr. Mark Woods, our CFO. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you all? Move into presenting now. Give me just a second. All right, hopefully you should see the bank reconciliation there on your screen. Does everybody see that? All right. As of November 30th, the district ended with a reconciled balance of $79,166,362.72. You can see as compared to this time last year, it's considerably up. There's two main factors in that. Last month, we had our bond sale for the Richmond ATC. So we received those construction funds through the bond sale that have come in, and we received our first check. We talked about that last time. Our first tax revenue check came in. So a big difference there from this time last year was the bills were late going out last year. There were some things going on in the county as to why those didn't get out. So it pushed back our collections last year, and we were actually in January before we received our first tax check last year. So it does make it look a little bit skewed when you compare the 2 years together there. Of the reconciled balance, the district has $5,740,990.65 in CDs. Those rates range from 0.65 to 1%. The CD market's really down right now. I'm sure you all have seen in the news that the stock market and everything is riding high. When it is high, your CD markets stay down. So they kind of have an inverse effect. So we're just riding that out, especially during the pandemic. And right now, we probably will invest a little bit more. I'll probably work with a couple of the banks to add some CDs in the local banks, but in order to do that, we'll have to bring next month to the board for you all to approve an agreement for them to pledge securities against the money that we have in their bank to secure it. Also in your packets, you had the balance sheet and the revenue and expense report for the month. Last month we did talk about in collections. We were kind of it was asked where we were at as compared to this time last year. So I went ahead and pulled when we've received a second check now, and so I compared the time frame of when we had our first two checks last year. And last year, after two checks, we were at 91% collection rate, and this year we're at the same. We're right at 91%, so it looks like we're doing well with collections.
Are there any questions for Mr. Woods? Okay, bearing no questions, then I need a motion to approve the monthly financial report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Brock, second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Moving on. Thank you, Mr. Woods. All right, moving on to 4L, the superintendent's report with our speaker, of course, Superintendent Gillum.
Thank you. Well, tonight I want to start, first of all, by highlighting a few things that we've done tonight. I want to say thank you to Mr. Lakes and also to Mr. Woods, who worked very closely with him on the Volkswagen grant. As we mentioned there, that saved our district $231,000. So that was excellent work on their part. We really appreciate it. I also want to mention the first action item on our agenda tonight, which was the refinancing of those bonds. We didn't specifically mention our savings there, but we were able to work very closely with our fiscal agent, which is Ross Sinclair and Associates, and refinance those 2011 bonds. And because bond rates have gone down a little bit, so we were able to refinance those. They're now eligible for refinancing, and that saved our district $310,000 in interest over the remaining life of those bonds. So those two actions together tonight saved over $540,000 for our district. So I just wanted to first of all point that out. As far as the rest of my superintendent's report, this past month it has been very busy. I've been throughout the district doing my first round of evaluation site visits. I do those twice a year, and during this process, I visit each school. I spend a few hours with the principal, walking around the school, talking about the progress that they're making in their school. I had some great visits, and I appreciate certainly all of the work that our principals have been doing. With everything over the past 9 months, they've really stepped up and done a great job. And we appreciate them so much. Also, throughout the county, I participated in some other local events with the Richmond Chamber of Commerce and also the Berea Chamber of Commerce. Earlier in the month, I did a presentation for an industrial development in the Berea area. And of course, I highlighted that. People are always excited to hear about the development of our career centers. Of course, Mr. Thomas showed those just earlier tonight in the construction report, and we've now broken ground on that Berea facility. So we're so proud of that work. And as well, while I'm mentioning those community pieces, that Berea facility, a Berea Career Center, is going to sits right next to Fairstown Middle School, but it sits right across the street from the new App Harvest facility. And App Harvest, for folks that may not know about that, it is an agri-tech industry. It's greenhouse production of fruits and vegetables. There's going to be 2 of those facilities here in Madison County. I've attended the opening or the grand announcement, I guess, or groundbreaking, whatever, for both of those facilities. It's going to be a huge investment in the economy of Madison County. We're so glad to have them. And as well, we're going to be working closely with them with our ag programs at both Madison Central, Madison Southern. It's going to be really neat to have a facility in the Richmond area and then also one in the Berea area with this group. So lots of opportunities for our kids in that. I also want to announce tonight that Madison County Schools is a recipient of the Creating Learning Connections Grant, also known as the CLC grant. And this grant's a collaborative effort with CDW, the Intel Corporation, Lego Foundation, and First Book to provide digital devices to support students during distance learning. Through this grant, each of our elementary schools across the district, every elementary school in our district, is receiving 31 Chromebooks. So this is over $80,000 grant that's been given to our district for the purchase of those Chromebooks. Was only awarded to 45 districts across the nation, only 3 in Kentucky. We were one of the 3 in Kentucky. So a very special thank you and a congratulations as well to Tina Barrett, our technology integration specialist there, for writing that grant and being the catalyst that made it happen. So we appreciate that. And of course, virtual learning and distance learning has been in the spotlight this year. And I want to thank our team that works to integrate technology into our classrooms. Of course, that involves Tina, also Drew Muntz, our Director of Instructional Technology, all of our school technology coordinators, our e-coaches, our Google certified teachers, our technology resource managers, and all of our technology department that works to keep all of the devices and our network up throughout our district. Big job there with all of those devices, all of the things we've been doing, and we appreciate their work. And I know we also, people are very familiar with the Chromebook purchases that we've done. I want to mention the Chromebook, give you an update on that. And we placed an order back in June. Those things were back ordered. We had 1,700 Chromebooks from that purchase. They arrived several weeks ago. We got those out to the schools. Then we also have the additional Chromebooks that I just mentioned through the grant. There were 350 of those. Those have arrived. They've been put out into schools. And as well, our schools have placed individual school orders for some, and most of those have arrived and are in our schools. And then we have another just under 1,300, I think it's 1,250 or so Chromebooks on order that should be arriving very soon. Additionally, our tech department has provided 260 hotspots to families in our district that are not able to access internet service. And then we've also finished the project to upgrade our outdoor access points outside of our schools. So Wi-Fi is available in our parking lots and on our bus ramps. So that project is complete. So you can see we made substantial investment to improve student access to technology. And as we remain virtual for right now, and as we wrap up this first half of the year, those devices will be put to good use. And speaking of that, I know everyone's eagerly waiting to know what we're going to be doing after winter break. Our team has been investigating and discussing options for continuation of learning after the winter break. But right now, we're also waiting to hear from the governor's office regarding specific requirements that they're going to put in place for in-person learning. And we'll have to meet those requirements. We expect to have that information by early next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. And we'll be able to process that. And we plan to be able to provide additional information by the end of the day next Thursday. Is kind of the day that we've set to share with our teachers, our community, our parents, specifically our plan for coming back after the winter break. Of course, I continue to meet weekly with our superintendent groups and to discuss all of the things regarding the pandemic. We also have a weekly COVID update meeting with all of our local officials that I participate in. And I appreciate our Judge Executive Reagan Taylor for coordinating those weekly meetings. And to everyone who participates, we have a lot of we have the folks from EKU, we have our mayors and city managers from Richmond and Berea. All of our county officials join us on that call, as well as some of our elected officials. So we appreciate that. It's good to have that group coming together. And of course, the thing that we're getting ready to talk about is the vaccine distribution. We had a call with the governor. I say we, I'm talking about our superintendent group. Had a call with the governor last week. He asked us to begin preparing for that vaccine distribution. So we sent out a survey to our staff on Tuesday, and we're starting to get that information back in. We will be ready to get the vaccine out to our people as soon as the vaccines arrive in our district, and hopefully that will help in our endeavor to move forward and get back to as close to normal as what we can. And so with that, I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and that is my superintendent report.
Thank you, Dr. Gillum. That was fantastic. That was a lot. I was taking notes because I know we've discussed, but I that was some very impressive numbers. So we appreciate all of your work. All right, moving on to number 5 on our agenda is comments from the board. Who'd like to go first?
I'd just like to congratulate Dr. Gillum for receiving the Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year Award. Not only for this challenging year where your leadership has been outstanding, but in general, your leadership has just been outstanding already. So you are worthy of it, and I do just want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the support that the board gives me. I really do. Thank you.
In addition to that, congratulations to Scott Anderson, who received the Community Service Award for his efforts along with the leadership that he provides to his team to feed our students, not only during COVID, but during the summer with the summer feeding program. It is something to behold, and we are so appreciative of the job that they do to help support our students during this crazy, crazy time.
Anyone else? I'll just add to that I had my notes to make sure that I mentioned that tonight too. So I want to congratulate Dr. Gillum and Mr. Scott Anderson. Well-deserved awards. I was proud to be a part of giving you all your awards, and things didn't turn out the way we wanted them to be presented, but I think it ended up very nice. If you'd like to see the entire presentation, the Richmond Chamber has it on their Facebook page and on their YouTube page. So you can watch it, you can see their speeches. I think they did a fantastic job. So we're super proud. So many of the state and local officials and other districts look to both of these men as leaders and see what we're doing in our school district, and they compare it to what they're doing in their school district. So it's very exciting to be forward thinking and to be a part of this. So very appreciative. And I also want to add that, of course, it is our December meeting. This will be my last chairman as being on the board meeting. I guess I will start the meeting next month, and then we'll have a new chairman. So part of that is to thank all of you for, it's been a very unusual year. So we've been on virtual, we've been out of virtual, we've been back to virtual. This is quite unprecedented. So I appreciate you letting me read all of these long resolutions to you. I appreciate everyone watching. I appreciate everyone's patience. This is not easy. And I do want to thank our superpower woman, we'll call her Superwoman Jeannie. she's top notch, and no one ever gets to see her because she's always off screen behind the scenes. And we thank her so much, because without her help, I wouldn't be able to do this. I don't know if any of us would be able to do this. So she makes this world a better place and makes our school board a better place. So is there anything else that anyone else would like to add? But I just wanted to thank you all tremendously. We have a wonderful staff and a wonderful board. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing my voice. We'll hear someone else's voice next month. So moving on to number 6, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mrs. Cobb, second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the meeting is adjourned. I miss having my gavel.
Yeah. You guys have a great Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
See y'all.
You all have a great Christmas. Thank you, Samantha. And I'll see you 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to sign papers, okay?
Mr. Cecil, are we still recording?